Welcome back, my Camp Crystal Lake counselors out there. Today, we are going to be talking about this complicated journey to get Jason Voorhees back on our screens. An article from The Wrap today details specific things we were going to see in the Camp Crystal Lake TV series produced by A24. It's so insane to think about. This is like the second time Jason Voorhees has had a TV show technically canceled on him. Some of y'all forget there was a CW version of this show that was headed our way that also got canceled. I did a video on that way back, and we even have photo evidence of like what Jason was gonna look like in that show and whatnot. Now, I'm kind of thankful we didn't get CW Jason, but man, A24 Jason is becoming just as difficult to get. So that's exactly what I'll be doing here for you guys. I'll be running through this article, detailing you what we were going to see in that show, the things I think are amazing, why it ended up failing and them having to start over, but also, and the real reason I definitely wanted to talk about this, a lot of these details here, which I think sound awesome, are not completely dead. This version of the show could still end up being the thing A24 makes, because they do confirm in this article they still plan to make the show, but it's 50-50 now whether they go with a brand new idea or they follow through with some of these ideas they had in mind. So as I go through this, I want to hear from you guys. Do you want this to be the show that A24 makes, or would you rather them go back to the drawing board and do something else? All right, so yes, where to even begin, man? Hopefully you've just been keeping up with Jason these past couple of months, because a lot has been developing with the guy. We've had the creation of the Jason universe that is set to give us everything Jason Voorhees minus a new movie. If that's what you came to scream about in the comments section, man, you're gonna have to keep waiting a couple of years because the rights to the movies are still really iffy. But the Jason universe is making sure we get someday a brand new Friday the 13th game, which is in the works. We got Jason popping up in other games like Multiverses, and what a lot of us are waiting on, because it's the closest thing to a new movie, is this A24 show that is going to premiere on Peacock. And it's been about a month now since we heard that they fired the showrunner of the show, and now we got the details on what was going on. So for one, the article kind of starts off with a bang, saying here, Charlize Theron was eyed to play Pam Voorhees in the A24 show based on the beloved Friday the 13th horror franchise set in the immediate aftermath of the drowning of a young Jason Voorhees. Okay, just that alone right there, so much to unpack. You telling me Furiosa could have been the mom of Jason? Oh yeah, baby. That is definitely a great casting choice for Pamela Voorhees, but it was also the thing that was deterring away a lot of the Friday the 13th fans, because they're like, man, I don't want to see Jason's mom. Unless she's looking like Stifler's mom, keep her away and just give me the adult machine-wielding boy I know and love. And so a lot of us thought it would be like a prequel set years before Jason drowns, and then we just kind of see how Pamela raises this deformed and twisted kid, but no, it looks like the show was going to begin right when Jason drowns. That would have been the start of the show, and it seems like the entire first season would have been dedicated to recreating the original Friday the 13th movie in modern day. That's the biggest thing we learned from in this article, and I'm like, dude, I really need this show to be back on then. Because in this article, they say here what would have happened in each season. They say here, in the grand ambition of Crystal Lake, each season would be a deconstruction of the first 4 Paramount movies. The series would incorporate lore from several sequels, but remix that material in a way similar to Fuller's Hannibal, which interpoled the Thomas Harris novels for 3 seasons. This fan theory was going around, and I thought, yeah, guys, it's a great fan theory, but I doubt they'd actually do that. They were essentially going to do 4 seasons of just recreating the first 4 Friday the 13th movies, but one, setting them in modern day, also remixing them so it wouldn't be the exact movies that we saw. It would be probably taking the best elements of those films and then doing a season-long version of that. And you know, to further back up the Wrap article in this, we had Daniel RPK, a reliable scooper here, who also chimed in and gave us some information about what he heard from Crystal Lake, where he said here, while they eyed Charlize Theron, Claire Danes had the offer to play Pam Voorhees, but she passed. Another interesting bit is that it was only a 1-year deal, meaning the main character would change in season 2. Absolutely, again, confirming them recreating the movies for the TV show, because who's the killer in the first Friday the 13th?
Jason!
I'm sorry, that's the wrong answer.
Pamela Voorhees.
You tricked
And then we get into Friday the 13th Part 2, and it's full-grown Jason going out there. I actually love this idea, and I hope this is still the route they go with. I remember when they were first talking about this TV show, they joked around and said, if we make it to 10 seasons, then we will do Jason X. We will do Jason in space. And I thought that was just a funny little gag, but no, that aligned with everything. If they get to season 10, which is also the 10th movie in the Friday the 13th franchise, they would have done their own version of Jason X, and I can only imagine what that would have looked like in an 8-episode long TV form. And again, this should really put at ease a lot of those fans that thought we were gonna get like 5-6 seasons of just Pamela Voorhees raising little Jason, and then like on the 8th season when they end the show, Jason drowns and comes to life, or does, you know, something like Smallville took forever to get Superman in his Superman suit and then the show ends. No, they were really just gonna focus on Pamela for one season and then do straight on Jason for the rest of it. And again, reminder, the television rights for Friday the 13th were completely different from the movie rights. In the movie world, it's still a little iffy on what they can do because 2 separate people own the rights to Jason. But in the TV world, they had the rights to do anything they wanted with him, which is why in the article they say here, we had the mask, we had the sequels, we could do whatever we wanted. He had a good path forward, which I did really like, said a source close to A24's side of Fuller's vision. So again, just like think about your favorite Friday the 13th movie, whether it's Jason Takes Manhattan, Jason Lives, whatever number that is, that's what you would have gotten that season. And getting 8 episodes of that, dude, that would have been any Friday the 13th fan's dream. Another really cool detail before we get into how this all just basically fell apart and why they're kind of having to start over is they do mention one of the episodes in the first season was written by Kevin Williamson, who is now the director of Scream 7, but is most famously known for writing a lot of the Scream movies, or at least the better ones in my opinion. They said here, Kevin Williamson, who wrote Wes Craven's Scream, was set to write what was described as the show's Red Wedding, referring to the infamous Game of Thrones episode, set entirely on a frozen crystal lake with the summer camp cabins trapped under snow drifts. That's something else fans have been begging for in the Friday the 13th franchise, is give us a Friday the 13th movie where Jason is in the snow, you know, the cabins are all filled with snow, and just even imagining that infamous lake just turned into complete ice, and we were going to dedicate an entire episode to just Crystal Lake being frozen. And this is an episode that had been rumored for a while. It's described to be one long epic chase sequence, which is very common in slasher movies. I'm assuming since it's season 1, though, it would have been Pamela chasing some of the counselors and killing them. But still, that sounds awesome here. So, all right then, what happened? Why did this fall apart, and why is it not moving forward? Couple of reasons. One really obvious one I do have to get out of the way that isn't exactly mentioned in this article, but I have to imagine it was kind of a big reason. Brian Fuller, the showrunner of this, is currently going through a legal battle where he's being accused of some harassment. And you know, in the world we live in, that kind of stuff just derails a career, and you don't want all the conversation of the show to be focused on that. So that maybe had something to do with it, but the article doesn't talk about that. Instead, what they really talk about is the budgeting issue that was on this show. Apparently, the entire cost of this show was ballooning to $85 million. Where the article specifies here, each episode of Crystal Lake, which was intended to have 8 per season, was budgeted at around $9.6 million. But according to sources, A24 wanted to cut that in half. And you know what? That is insane to think about. I know in today's world where TV shows look as amazing as movies do now, this kind of thing is weirdly normal. Although I still think shows should not cost more than movies. $85 million or even $9 million an episode is absolutely outrageous for Friday the 13th. Let me throw some numbers your way, okay? The most expensive Friday the 13th movie ever made was the 2009 remake, which I really like. And that had a budget of around $19 million just for that movie. Then we go to something like Jason X, which had a budget of $14 million. And you know, since we're talking about this being an A24 production, and A24, we're going to have to be the ones to write that check, their most expensive movie they've ever made released this year, Civil War, which had a budget of $50 million. Now with those numbers and this perspective, hearing that this show was going to cost $85 million, you can see why A24 pulled the plug and said, oh, come on now, man. You think all our movies make Marvel money? No, no, no. That had to be the biggest reason they halted on this, and I just don't know why the show would cost that much. The article says the entire show would have taken place at Camp Crystal Lake, just a campsite, which is a pretty inexpensive location, which is why most Friday the 13th movies are pretty cheap. So with a budget like this, dog, I have no idea what they were going to do with freaking Jason and Pamela in this show. So where does that leave us now? The article does end by saying, according to one source close to the project, A24 is still committed to making the show, although it's unclear if the studio will use the original Fuller scripts and outlines or start from scratch with a new creative leadership. One suitor, according to several sources, is Nick Antosca, who worked with Fuller on Hannibal and wrote an unproduced Friday the 13th feature script back in 2015. Should Antosca get the job, he would jetson the work that would come before. So this is kind of our way to know if they'll go with this original plan of just kind of redoing the movies season by season. If they bring on Nick Antosca, who actually also works for the Chucky TV series, so you get a small idea of what his work is like, then he would just kind of carry on to where this previous showrunner left off, but probably also working to make that budget smaller so it's not as big of a risk for A24. And like I said, personally, I would prefer this angle because that means we would just get one season of Pamela, and then however long the show goes on is just straight pure on adult Jason doing what he does for an hour at a time, 8 episodes, improving on the older movies in modern day. Like, come on, guys. If we can't get a movie, this is as good as it's gonna get. So we'll see what happens. At the end of the day, we are still getting a Friday the 13th A24 TV show, but now we just wait to find out if this is the idea they're going with. Are they going to do something new? Let me know what you guys think. You hear about these details. Would you want them to continue on, or would you like something new? And if they do something new, what's your idea? I think everything. Be sure and like, subscribe, follow me on Twitter at 3C Films or on TikTok at 3C Films. But as always, I'm Chris. Take care.